And welcome back, folks. So, good night, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever it is you tune in. Hope everything's going well for you. I'm not showing my face, and Trey's in the car. We're gonna make this work. So for tonight's show, what I plan to do is, well, first of all, I need to see if everyone can hear me correctly, so that we can get some of the audio issues out of the way first, because I've never really done this stance back with the same problem that I've had with my audio for a while. So need to make sure that everyone is able to hear me at least, so I can get a confirmation from the chat. Speaking of which, good shout out to Brian Peoples, boy Blackheart. See you here. All right, good to know. Here and live. Trey, you might want to mute yourself a little bit because I'm hearing more car than you.
Got it.
Very good, thank you. All right, so the premise for tonight's show is, as you can see, what I got going on here in my janky little setup. It's rounds to draft, and then over here is what I would believe to be the first team depth chart. Now, from over here, you'll see guys that are having a half circle. You'll see guys with a full circle. The guys with the half circle, I'm not exactly sure if they're going to be deemed as a starter yet, so kind of 50-50 on them, right? So the way that I feel about those guys are for AC for Auden Tate, those for Lominus Kiss, Trey H for Fidel Hodge. Over here, I got Caleb McGarry and Jake Mayfield, and I got Matt Hennessy on the offense. Everyone else are kind of mixed with what I got on defense. If there was going to be some people that I would point out, it might be Deji and maybe Jalen Hawkins, but I feel like Deion Jones, Rashawn Evans are going to be on the field at the same time. But since he's re-signed in, we're going to probably go by some sort of a 3-4 scheme. In this situation, probably a 4-2-5, which I actually would kind of see a little bit better because we have more of our better guys in the secondary. So having more of those guys in the field might do well for us. And plus, everyone's kind of running like 11 personnel anyway, so those are going to have more players on the field. So now that we have an idea of what our starters would look like, over here we have the rounds to draft. Right? And I got each position labeled for the quarterback down to punter. I skipped kicker because we don't really need to draft a kicker. Kind of self-explanatory. So what we're going to fill out over here is we're going to fill out 3 possible areas in the draft where we would deem it would be a good fit to take that position. Not necessarily any type of player right now, because I mean we've already kind of talked to death about the who, but let's go for the what and the when. So that's what this premise is going to be about, right? Because there's a lot of different rumors going around as to what we could do. You know, a lot more people are trying to say that, hey, we might be taking a wide receiver. You know, oh, hey, Garrett Wilson's trending towards us, or Jameson Williams is trending towards us, and you know, we may feel a certain type of way about this types of people from either where they are, or the position they represent. But it's good to keep in mind about. There's windows of opportunities for each and every draft and to get the right kind of players for your team. And that's where we kind of have to settle and make a difference. And here's the thing, right? Like, we don't need to fill out every single one of these positions. I mean, we're not going to, naturally, because we have 9 draft picks. We could get more. We could end up with less. So some of these people are going to be prioritized, right? So that's kind of what we're going to go for. So now that we kind of understand the basis of the premise for everyone that's just tuning in and starting out, let's take a look at everyone else that's been able to join us tonight. We got Wallace Smith. Here you go, Vlad. Good to hear you. Got Ty Bonds. Football's well past the AFN. Best off content. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks to the idea. And then we got David Floyd. All right. So I'm hopefully going to try to keep this as visible as possible for the duration of the screen. The kind of setup that I got behind the camera, that might be easier said than done. But we're going to make it work. So Trey, I'm going to ask you this. What do you want to go by and scope out what our team looks like at the moment in terms of our 22 starters? Or do you want to just go by position and kind of figure out where we can take each position?
Let's see. I think we can kind of figure out where we can take each position. I think that'd be better.
Okay. So do you want to just go down the list? Okay, you want to go about things?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, like I said, for these slots, we're going to mention 3 different areas. All right. You always want to have a plan B and plan C. You know, we'll spend a bunch of preach about those contingency plans. So we're going to have to make 3 for each and every one of them. But when we get to ones where, all right, now we get a lot of different options. Now we get a lot of different options. Oh, hey, we don't have a whole lot of different options. Hey, we don't have a whole lot of different options. This is where we're going to have to really weed out certain positions and kind of figure out, okay, well, what's the best time to get this position? So, with that in mind, I'm going to give you, Trey, I'm going to give you a plan A as to when when we should select a quarterback, if we are to. Now, again, we don't have to say, oh, hey, we need to draft this position here and we need to draft this position here. Some of these positions we can skip.
Okay, so when should we take a quarterback? I really think if we end up taking the quarterback, it's probably going to end up being in like 3rd roundish, kind of like where the sweet spot is for quarterbacks right now. Because with how when you sign Marcus Mariota to a 2-year deal, you're either going to let him. It's kind of like an experiment. You're either going to let him, have the full keys this year, and if it doesn't work out, then you take a quarterback next year, of course, and you just let him play out that last year, or you end up taking one this year. But I think if you do end up taking one, it's probably the 3rd round, just because it's more of a sweet spot because you can still get like a Carson Strong, Bailey Zapp in that area too. But like I said, wide receiver, defense, O-line, running back, bigger needs than quarterback right now. As long as Marcus Mariota can be half of at least Matt Ryan, I think we should be straight for at least a year to where we can, if we do want to draft a quarterback next year, it's better in that class than it is in this one.
Okay, so right now you said your first option, your first window to take a quarterback would be the 3rd round.
Yeah.
Right? All right, so that's the first plan. We're going to go with quarterback. Now, this, you can see it. Now, this might say rounds to draft. One thing I will include is priority undrafted free agents. Or, if I have enough space, I'll just put PUFA.
Okay.
So these are going to be the guys where it's like, oh, hey, we don't have a 7th round pick, but there's going to be a couple of people where we might be able to snag, once the draft is done, we can assign some of the other guys we can come across. I mean, we did that last year. I mean, dang near took 20 people. But, so, I'm leaving that as an option. I mean, that's how we got guys like Felipe Franks and Caleb Huntley and all those other guys. So, it's definitely not... I'm not going to count it out as an option to get at position 2. So if you want to leave that as your plan C, I'll consider that, just in case we run out of priority picks to go through, right? So where would you have your plan B for a quarterback? If you can't, let's say, all right, well, I got my options here, and I either like this position better, or there's 2 different options you mentioned, Carson Strong or Bailey Zappi. If they're not there, then I got to look elsewhere. And where's that 2nd window for you?
Let's see. I'm not gonna lie, I'd probably say like 5th round, like towards the middle of that, like because we have like 2 5th-round picks, right? Or is it 6?
We have 2 6.
Okay, yeah, so 2 6th-round picks. So you never know. You may be able to find a next Dak Prescott in the 4th, 5th round. Might not happen. It's like a once in a decade type thing. But like I said, this quarterback class really isn't the most special when it comes, like, especially like to top quarterbacks. But when it comes to like the quarterbacks later in the rounds, 4th, 5th round, it's not really the best either. So we see how Darren Hall and Drew Dalman worked out last year. Kind of contributed to the team as a 4th rounder. Our 5th rounders did too. Ogundeji and Taquan Graham. So
Avery Williams.
Yeah, and Avery Williams. So if you want to kind of grab a backup, probably say like 6th round, just because you can still grab contributors in the 4th and 5th.
Gotcha. And now I'm saying that we either if priority undrafted free agents of the PUFA, if that would be your plan B, then I would just put non-available or just don't draft or just don't get one as like a plan C, right? So if we're gonna really go kind of slim down our options, we can still kind of consider that, right? So even if you don't like your odds of getting a quarterback that you want in the 6th round, and then you'll have to get one from you'll have to get a priority free agent, I can still leave that as a second option too. And then maybe like the third plan would be like 2023 or something.
Yeah. You can still also trade for Baker too, because I heard he's not really going for the day 2 picks right now. You could probably trade for him like a 4th, 5th, 6th round pick.
I mean, we can, like you said, we can get a lot of contributors that way. A lot of different role players, and there's a lot of good people here. So good players can just naturally split. So I take it from this point on, we might have to go. PFA or something. For the 3rd. All right, running back. What do you think would be the first good window to take a running back?
I'm kind of split on like the 2nd round and the 4th round right here, because kind of with that, like, not 43, but probably like pick 58, you could probably take like Isaiah Spiller, Kenneth Walker, James Cook, something like that. But also you could, and still in the 4th round, take like James Cook, or I keep forgetting this. Zamir White and guys like that. So I'm kind of split between that. Right now, I would probably have to say the 4th, just because we do have a lot of running back depth at the point with Damian Williams and Cordell and Mike Davis, and just re-signed Quadre. And I think Caleb Hunt is still on the practice squad, if I'm not wrong. I think he's still on the practice squad. So for me, I probably have to go like the 4th round, because you can still find like at least a starting caliber running back in there. But I wouldn't be surprised if they go 2nd.
All right, so for your 4th option, I'm just going to put 4th. Yeah, I do believe that it would be a good idea to draft one. Now, I know that we've been kind of praising our running back room a little bit right now. Same with Damian Williams, a Super Bowl running back. That's great and all. Congratulations to him. But he just turned 30 the other day, right? And then you also have Mike Davis, who's also over 30. And you also have Cordell Patterson, that's over 30. And then you have your 4th guy, that's Quad Allison. And he's barely can see the field. Like, he's not going to be that reliable number 1 back. At least not that I would picture right away. Given his time.
Or 2.
So I think it would be necessary to at least try to draft that back in the future. So it's completely not out of question.
I mean, because I wouldn't be upset with a guy like Kenneth Walker or Brees Hall, somebody like that in the second round.
All right. So if we don't get those running backs that we want in the fourth round, when should we start looking next?
Undrafted free agents.
Really?
I mean, we kind of, to be honest, I think we kind of got stuck on our last two with Javon Hawkins and Caleb Huntley. But I think with this year's class, I think a lot of running backs, when they're being kind of devalued, as you can find them in the later rounds or sometimes even undrafted, I think a lot of them are going to slip out into those undrafted free agents. So if you can't get one in like the fourth round, or of course if they do go one in the second or third, just look to the undrafted free agents and trying to sign one there, see if you can get it. At least make him, if he's not on the offense, at least make him contribute to special teams.
So I take it if we can't snag the one that we want, or if they sign somewhere else, then we just go 2023?
Yeah, basically.
All right. Here's a position. Wide receiver. Major talking point for us for a long time.
It's kind of surprising to say we went from Cavarelli and Julio Jones to Olamide Zaccheaus and Frank Darby. So in the Discord, we kind of talked about this earlier, but I said earlier that wide receiver and defensive end are kind of like they're tied for number one at need right now. And what I mean by that is you can take an edge rusher, which is like one of your top priorities, if not your top priority, because you were dead last in sacks last year, dead last in pressure rate last year, and couldn't stop the run either. So no one would be mad at that pick. But then also you have to say you can't turn Kyle Pitts from a tight end into a wide receiver. He can do it, but you don't want him to do it again. And Cordell Patterson, like we said, is 30 years old. So he's not going to, we don't need him to be our X factor. So you could end up taking a wide receiver at pick 8. Heard some Jameson Williams talk about he could be the first one going off at 8. And for what I heard, he said he'll be ready by week 1. His ACL rehab is going well, so he said he'll be ready by week 1. But for me, surprisingly, I'm going to have to say a wide receiver in the first round. Just because if you want to help Marcus Mariota the most, you get him the most weapons to help him out. And with the wide receiver room, probably going to, like most of the top wide receivers, probably going to be gone in the first round. Just get your guy right there. Still a lot of edge rushers in the second round, especially very valued at 43. I think he can find you a good edge rusher in the second round, and just take a guy like Jameson Williams, Garrett Wilson, Drake London at 8, and go from there.
Okay. So, now we got to picture the scenario. All right, we either don't land the guy that we want there, or we do, but we need a second one, right? So, our next opportunity where we should start looking, is that going to be like a next after a second round kind of double dip there with the top picks, or you just need to kind of wait around a little bit later?
I'd probably say like third round, like that 82nd pick. Take a guy like Jalen Tolbert, Calvin Austin, maybe keep forgetting.
Yeah, we do know you love yourself some Calvin Austin.
Yes, I do. Speedster.
Before we continue, I got one more person to bring up here for you. Welcome to the stream, Ripcliff.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Good.
Oh, well. So, just to kind of give you a recap as to what's going on. All right, so over on the left-hand side of my screen, you have the rounds to draft. Basically, what we're doing is that we're trying to prioritize the spots in the draft where we should start looking. Not necessarily draft, but at least start looking for that position, right? And, over here on the right side, that's what our 22 starters would look like for me. I have us going in 11 personnel in a 4-2-5 defensive system because I feel like that's where we put kind of most of our best players in the field. So If we want to take a look at this as a frame of reference, we can go ahead and do that just a little bit. I have the initials just of everyone. So just to recap, in case you can't see it, I had Trey doing the selection so far, and for the quarterback, he said he wanted to start looking at the third round at least. And then, hey, if I can't find the guy or if someone else is in a position at a priority that's a little bit better than that, then I'm going to start looking again at quarterback in the sixth round. And if I can't get the sixth round, try to sign up a priority free agent, right? Running backs, he said, all right, my first window of opportunity was trying to go back and forth between the second and fourth round, ultimately chose the fourth round. And he's like, all right, well, if I can't get the fourth round one, then I'm going to have to start seeing who else is going to slide to us in the undrafted free agents. And then if we can't get any of those guys that we want, then we'll just go to the receivers. Now, where you come in was the first round where we start looking at our receivers. At least start looking. Again, not necessarily having to draft one, but
like where the balance
group. So now we're kind of focusing the third round. And if you guys want to talk amongst yourselves to win, we should start looking again, either in case we don't get the wide receiver we want, or if we want to get two.
So basically, like where the value's at. Is that what you mean? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of like where you guys are at, like where the value's at for those positions.
Right.
Like if we say that again.
Right. So we're just kind of going by the timing.
Yeah, so like when we should target. Okay. Yeah, I kind of agree. Now, with quarterback, my thing is with that is like, I really don't want to take a mid-round quarterback in this draft just because at that point you're saying that they're not, like, why get a guy that, like, you're not completely sold on? Because if you're sold on him, but you take him in the first round, right? And taking a quarterback in the mid-round may, like, make it handicap you in future drafts or future free agencies where you're like, well, we got this guy that we're trying to develop. Unless the value is crazy, like, I don't know, Kenny Pickett falls to the second round or something. I don't know. But I don't know about you guys, but that's kind of how I am with the quarterback. Like, I don't even really think about touching quarterback unless he's the guy, And then if it's the guy, you think the first round. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I will say this though, because it's kind of surprising hearing this from you because of how big you are on Carson Strong. And one thing that I will say about him, and I don't know if you've heard about this update, but there was an injury report that recently came out, and someone that I was following, they kind of focused on it and pointed it out. And it's like, basically, if you take a look at Carson Strong's tape from this past season, you'll need to take a look at it again with a different lens because he was doing that on basically one leg. He had a major knee.
He was injured. Yeah, he was injured the whole year with that knee. So I mean, I love Carson Strong, but unless the coaching staff themselves is sold on him, I wouldn't take it. Because with him, like with any quarterback, you're going to have a plan in place for the player, right? So unless they're, unless they have a plan, and if they do, I would take it in the second round. He might fall to the third, but he's got the arm talent, But I would only take him if we had a plan for him, which I think Arthur's confident that they're looking for, like a Matt Ryan-esque type quarterback. Is that right? I don't know. I just saw a quote.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what the reports have shown. We don't know how much truth there is to that at the moment, but one thing I will say is that just because you have someone in the third round that you like at the quarterback position, we can start naming a couple of other guys that were in the third round, really didn't have that much of a plan. Russell Wilson, you got your Kirk Cousins of the world, you got your Davis Mills of the world, that's worth, you got your Dak Prescott's, if you will. Like, I know that Dak, he kind of fell for some more off the field issues than really anything, but there's some guys that can slip around in the draft somewhere that if you have a plan for him, Carson Strong, for all that means, hey, he could just be the guy that needs to heal up. We'll let Marcus Mariota take that kind of beating for him.
Yeah.
As he develops behind him. That way he doesn't have to worry about cardio. Now he just has to worry about healing.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but because with that, I think it would be good to give him time to heal. Like, as they say, those type of knee injuries and stuff, like the first year back is okay, and then like the second year back is really when they start getting back to their original self, So if we give him another year, or two, which basically the Mariota contract's a 1 year deal if you look at it. So if they did get a quarterback and they wanted to move on from Mariota next year, there's not really any harm in doing that. Because the way his contract's structured, he's basically a 1 year deal.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I as far as the quarterbacks go, Carson Strong is on the top of my list as far as like who I'd want to see us take. All the other guys, would you either have to take higher than I'd want you to, or they have more question marks than I would like, to take it.
Right, I get you. All right, so moving back on to the wide receiver topic.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the wide receivers, first round definitely would be the first place that you'd look. Now, I don't know how I feel about it at 8. I think maybe if, what's the guy from Ohio State, Wilson?
Yeah.
Wilson. Yeah, if we got him, I wouldn't be too mad at it, I guess. I would be kind of disappointed that we didn't do defense just because we need defense. Because my thinking on this team is we've got to change our philosophy from previous regimes. Because the previous regime never did put resources at the defense under Quinn, but they didn't put as much emphasis on it as I would have thought. And obviously we didn't develop players. The player development was the biggest issue.
I'm just going to tell you right now, you're kind of cutting in and out at the moment.
Oh, yeah, sorry. There's some storms going on in my area, so I do apologize for the mic.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. Just trying to keep that in mind.
Yeah, the preceding years after Dan Quinn took players, they kind of regressed because he couldn't develop, seemingly. But I think that, I would really like to see this team really focus on defense, building a defensive team with a strong run game to start. Because that would set up for when you do get your quarterback, whoever that is, if Carson Strong, if it's somebody in next year's draft or whatever, then you have a strong foundation with a strong defense, hopefully a decent O-line, and a run game for him to lean on. So, because if we go into next year with limited weapons, it's not really that big a deal because we're not expecting much from this year anyways.
To an extent, yeah.
Yeah, obviously you're not going to be like, oh, we're going to lose this year. You don't want your coaches have to have that mentality. But, if we don't get a top tier receiver in this class and get somebody in the mid round or something, that's a solid player. That wouldn't be too big a deal in my mind. But
so we're saying mid round, right? So does that be like second, third, fourth?
Yeah. Yeah, that's where the actual full on value I feel with receivers going to be is the second and third rounds especially. Because the thing is with this draft, I don't see that there's a true number one receiver. It may be, but prospect wise, I don't see like a high end number one receiver, right? I see a lot of high end
Right.
number two receivers that could play number one role. Or that's the receiver class is definitely not as strong as it's been in the years previous.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Because like, even if you go based off of last year, like if you want to take some of these wide receivers and put them in the last year's draft, they pale in comparison to what Jamar Chase was like. What Jalen Waddle
and
would look
Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith. I mean, you could even put Kyle Pitts in that because I mean he was a tight end, but he was also, I mean, if you put him in the
number one receiver,
he was high up there too. And that was the top guys in that class. Then you go down and you have even more value, as you go down further. So, like Terrence Marshall, wasn't he in last year's draft? Wasn't that last year's draft he was in?
Yeah, fell to the Panthers in the deep second.
Yeah, in this year's draft, Terrence Marshall probably a first round pick, maybe in the 20s. He fell to 52 or something like that.
Somewhere around there, yeah. I think 58.
Yeah. But I really think that you should look for either corner. Corner's not really my biggest need, but if we want to get a corner, you want to get them in the first round. Because after the first round, in early second, the talent level for corners falls way off, right? Edges, while it's a pretty deep class, if you want to get like your premier rushers, you're going to want to take them in the first, right?
Right, yeah.
Because the other guys are going to be good players for you, good solid players for you, but they're not going to be that top end, as far as that goes. So, and then interior defensive line, obviously you have really two main guys carrying that with Jordan Davis and Travis Jones. Again, after that, there's a big gap. Well, then you have three techs, nose tackles, I should say. You have those two, and you have like Devontae Wyatt and players.
Devontae Wyatt, DeMarvin Leal, Perrion Winfrey.
Yeah, Lil might be a very good value in this draft because nobody's talking about him now. I don't know if he's kind of falling out of favor with him, but he could be definitely one that drops a lot further than you think in this draft.
All right. Oh, by the way, just want to give a quick shout out to Jarvis real quick. I don't know if I'm going to put the link up right now, but Jarvis, if you're listening, check your Twitter. I've been trying to reach out to you that way, and then hopefully if you kind of check your settings right there, we can kind of DM each other from there. Just want to throw that out there. But, all right, so just going to try to pencil some of these in on Sharpie. So we're kind of both agreeing that edge would be a first-round target. Interior defensive line, if we want to try to snag Jordan Davis, we'd have to try to get him in the first. Now you mentioned corners, like about like the drop off that there may be there. What would be like the first opportunity you would see them go?
I mean, at 8. I mean, if you really are, if you're high on Sauce Gardner or Stingley, like you're going to have to take them.
What do you think, Trey?
What position is this for?
Right now, we're going to jump around the board and we're going to focus on the cornerback.
Corner, to be honest, I don't really think we need to take any corners this year, really, to be honest. I mean, like, if they're for, like, depth picks in, like, the, like, 5th, 6th round, then, like, I'm okay with that. But, like, kind of like those first 4 rounds, I don't really feel like we need to take a corner when, like, you have Casey Hayward out there. And I know he's 32, but you signed him on a 2-year deal. So, you know, you're kind of like, maybe, like, take a corner next year to groom him in. You still got A.J. Terrell, so you really don't need another first-round corner that you're going to have to pay. And then Isaiah Oliver looks like he's taking over that Rover nickel spot on the defense. And then you still have Darren Hall and Avery Williams, and we never know, they may put Richie Grant or Eric Harris in one of those slot positions too. So you have the corners and the DBs. So to be honest, I think really the only reason that you would take a corner is if you were looking for extra special teams. So, but other than that, I don't really see the point in it.
And even then, like, we already drafted 2 people from last year. One of them excels in special teams. We just signed Ford to be a special teamer too. Like, we got can't forget T. Staver. Like, we got a lot of guys that are in that building already that are young. They're going to be competitive. They're going to be.
Yeah. My point was not that we need to take corner. My point was, if you're going to take corner, it needs to be in the first round, because after that, there's not much better.
So, let's say about a guy like Tariq Woolen, right? The guy that kind of blew everyone away with the combine. Has some good skills when you see him on tape that can be molded into that really good, like, big lengthy corner for you. It's like either like you're covering the number 1 or the number 2 guy. And, you know, Casey Hayward's obviously not going to be here forever. So there's that to keep in mind as well, right? So,
yeah. Because, I mean, if you look at in years past, I mean, I know this is a different regime and everything, but, like, if you would just look at what you signed in free agency, like back when we drafted Lindstrom and McGarry in the first round, we had signed like two guards, and I think we re-signed Kelly or whatever his name was, Sombrero. I think we gave him like a extension that year before we went into the draft. So it was like, you know, you didn't really expect them to target the offensive line necessarily in that draft early, and then they did. You know, so I think the signals say that we're not going to go corner with the signing, but I can't rule it out for sure that we would if they do like one of those top guys. Other than that, I don't want to touch corner at all. Unless we're getting one of those top guys, I don't want to touch.
Yeah, so it's either like first round or just like don't take one at all.
Yeah, I'm not, like I said, that's not like my biggest like want. But if we like say we drafted Stingley or Gardner, like I'm not going to be mad at them. You know, like, I'm not going to be like throwing stuff at my screen because I want to be like, well, they're top guys, and with Terrell and with one of those guys, you're looking at your cornerback position pretty much cleared up for the next 5 years.
Right. And then, like you already said, like there's a deeper pool of talent to be found on the edge class. There's other couple of roller guys you can find on the interior defensive line. There's going to be a plethora of wide receivers to choose from later on. You're going to be more confident in than like the fifth best corner in the draft.
And don't rule this out. We have enough resources with the extra third and the extra second that there's a very good possibility that we move back up to the bottom of the first. If there's somebody that we want. I'm
not exactly counting out the fact that we could get 2 first-round picks if we won't take one in the later rounds, but or in the later slots in the first round.
You know what I mean? Though, like you can't rule out the possibility that we might trade up. You know, out of that 43 that we picked, number 43. You know, you throw it in at 38. Yeah, you get to like the later round, like around the 20s and 30s. You don't really have to give up that much to jump from 43 back into the first round, and you get that option here. So, like, if there's a guy that they're really targeting around that area that they think might fall to the second, they might want to still jump up into the bottom of the first just to get that option, because that's a big thing. That's an extra franchise tag basically on a play.
All right. So I'm just gonna insert this one. Save the options.
Yeah.
One thing I was not expecting to happen was for my sharper to go out on me. But we do restart it, reset it. All right. And then I think we say kind of like either like a priority UDFA or just wait for next year.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't. Yeah.
2023. All right.
Now, I'll bring this up too. Linebacker, the mid rounds, like the second round, third round, you might be able to get some value there because I think those linebackers are going to fall. Especially nobody talks about Nakobe Dean anymore. Like, I don't know if he's going to go in first. He should go in the first. I would take him in the first if I was a team that needed a linebacker. Like later in the first. I'm not saying the Falcons need to, but like I think his value is a first round pick. But he may fall to that 43 spot. So I couldn't rule that out in the second. That would be where I would be targeting linebacker. I don't think it's a big enough need for us to target in the first, but if the value's there in the second.
Yeah, because I mean, Rashawn Evans, he got a 1-year deal, right? I know Lorenzo Carter did.
Yeah. So I mean, that doesn't like the way I viewed the draft. Who you sign in free agency doesn't really hamstring you in the draft. You know what I mean? Because you want to take the best player available. I'm not a full-on BPA guy because obviously need has to take into account if there's like a tiebreaker or something. But I'm not going to take a drastically less player because I signed a guy in free agency if a guy falls to me, right? Like if Nakobe Dean's there at 43, we better be running that up to the podium,
Yeah,
he's just that kind of guy. He's just that kind of player you want on your team. Regardless of who's the edge guy. I mean, obviously it doesn't mean they're there, but likely if he's there, he's probably above the edge guys, the guard, the interior offensive line, which should be. That's another thing. Here, offensive line is around. We just need to start looking at that as well. A guy that I really like for like a center, if he falls far enough, Ed Ingram. I don't know if you guys would look into him.
Sorry, say his name again?
Ed Ingram from LSU.
Oh, Ed Ingram as a center.
Yeah. Center guard, he could play either one, really. I think our biggest hole is at center. Because while Mayfield he wasn't like great or anything, he wasn't Hennessy.
He also wasn't really given a fair chance.
Yeah. So, Mayfield, I think you could roll out next year, and you wouldn't. I wouldn't say you feel comfortable with that, but you don't feel horrible with it. If Hennessy's your quarterback or your center, though, you're in trouble. I think. Hopefully, Dahlman at least, grows into that role, so we don't have to rely on Hennessy next year.
I mean, we're going to definitely need those centers that can, in that zone scheme that can get up into the second level and take that middle linebacker out of the play. Just for that, and then not get pushed so far backwards that they could be confused as a running back in the pass protection.
Right. Yeah. But
so
yeah.
Ed Ingram, I mean, he kind of seems like a third rounder to me too, right?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Ed Ingram, if you want to take him at a center, do you take him in the third round then? You kind of say that that's the
third, fourth.
First
the thing with Ingram is I think he has some like off the field things that are kind of pushing him down people's boards. Just what I've heard. I don't know. I mean, obviously,
I've seen that in some reports as well too.
yeah. So he might be one of those guys that you can get extremely good value. Because my thing is with off the field issues, like there's a certain point where you take those. Because like, what's the harm? You know, if you get to the 4th round, there's a guy that like without the off the field issues, he's like a second on your board. Like, why do you not take that guy?
Yeah, I mean that's what happened with Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. Like my thing is like there's so
Tyrann
much
Mathieu.
bust potential when you get to those rounds, regardless of who you take. Why not take the uber talented guy that just had some off the field issues?
Yeah, I mean, heck, like take our linebacker from last year from Louisville, Dorian Etheridge. We signed him as a priority UDFA, but if that off the field stuff doesn't happen to him, he's probably like a mid-round pick.
Yeah, and I mean he was. I mean, I don't. Did he end up He didn't end up making the team, did he?
No, he's behind. He's probably behind Devo on the depth chart right now.
Oh yeah, he did. He did make the team. So yeah, I mean, like you get a depth player there, like as a priority free agent or whatever, undrafted free agent.
So I think for his case, if that's the guy that you want to target, I would say 4th then.
Yeah.
And then if you don't get him, would you go for a center again?
There's not really anybody that I'm seeing that I'm really, really big on.
There's one guy that I can tell you about, though, that I recently found out about was got the school that he went to, but Cam Jurgens. I think he's in Nebraska.
Nebraska? I have to check him out. I hadn't seen him, but
so basically, he's a little bit undersized, but he's got some good footwork. He's really tenacious. He's got that aggressiveness of like a Trevor Penning, but that's kind of his problem. He's a bit of a small bull. It's like he's a little bit too aggressive and undisciplined when it comes to certain mechanics, but he's got a good sense of like footwork and hand placement that at his ceiling, if he does the best that he can possibly be, it could remind you of Jason Kelsey.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But
the only thing I worry about was size. So like I don't worry about Linderbaum when it comes to size because his technique is so good that like you don't worry about that as much because he's got such good technique he can handle that. The issue is if you don't have size, you don't have or technique's a little shaky, right? Then you run into the problems of getting overpacked, right?
Right.
So that's the only thing I would worry about there. But obviously people get in the league and they grow, if you're taking a guy late, you can kind of roll the dice on him, as far as now for my main reason for calling in, we got to talk about Kyle Hamilton. I heard some things last week about Kyle Hamilton that just like what? First off, we don't need to be taking safety at number 8. Period. I don't care if it's Kyle Hamilton. I don't care who it is. Number 8. Kyle Hamilton is not worth the number 8 selection. Here's why. It's not that Kyle Hamilton is not a good player. I will never say that. He's a very good player, right? But people are talking about him like he's like this do-it-all safety. He's not just this do-it-all safety. He's like a Earl Thomas and a Cam Chancellor in one body. It's kind of how they're framing, right? Is that what I'm saying?
They were kind of like comparing him to like a Derwin James or
a Sean Taylor. Like, like you're talking about number 8 overall. Like you're talking about a very high-end safety to take him at that position, right? And he is. He's a very good box safety. Like, he'll be a very good box safety for the team, right? But here's some things with him. He's not got range, so he can't be a free safety. This free safety single high stuff that you're talking about, they look at that one play he made against Florida State, and they're like, okay, he's a free safety. Not to mention, there's other plays where he gets absolutely out of position, gives up plays later in that same game. He gave up a big touchdown in that game because he was out of position, right? So, he's not a free safety. He's a very good box safety, right? But he's also not like he's not right. I don't think he's like a Jamal Adams. So that's kind of where I'm at with Hamilton. And I think like you would do better to target like a Lewis Seen in the second round if you wanted to go safety. If you felt that was a need for you, like a Lewis Seen in the second round, you'd get
maybe like a Daxton Hill or something from Michigan.
Yeah, or a Dax Hill. I don't know if he falls out of the first completely, but if he's there in the second, him, like that. Like safety in general doesn't give you a lot of value just for their position, right? So like, there's not like if you draft a safety, even if he's a good safety, he doesn't give your team a ton of value, like a tackle or an edge or a quarterback. The list goes on of those kind of players, right? Really good safeties, they're just really good safeties. Like you look at like a Justin Reed or something, kind of player. Like he's a very good player, but doesn't like contribute a lot to your win percentage or your win odds, basically, for your defense. I don't think he does. Just like Richie Grant, right? Very good safety, and we got in the second round, and I really like him. But would he be worth a first round pick at his talent level? And I think Richie Grant's a better safety than Alabama.
I think if they reach their ceiling, I'd kind of agree.
Yeah. You don't agree, or you do?
I do.
Yeah. Because Richie Grant is a do-it-all safety. He really can play in the box just as well as he can play at free safety, right?
Yeah, basically, like, if you put Richie Grant in Kyle Hamilton's body, he would be what people are projecting Kyle Hamilton would be.
Yeah. And people are talking, like, I heard, I told people that they weren't Kyle Hamilton isn't rangy, and they were talking about, well, he's not fast. It's not about speed, because Richie Grant ran about the same 40 time as Kyle Hamilton did, right? It's not about their 40 time. Richie Grant is a much more instinctual player and a much more knowledgeable player when it comes to route schemes. When he's playing up high than Kyle Hamilton is, right? Kyle Hamilton's really good at run fits, right? And he's really good at manning up being in flat routes, manning up a running back, occasionally a tight end. That's where he would be. That's a strong safety. That's a box safety, right? And Richie Grant can give you that. Richie Grant's a very good tackler, and he's a very instinctual player even in the box. But he's also got the back end. He can play that center field role just because he anticipates things before they happen. Like if you look at his tape when he was free safety in Central Florida, he was able to anticipate the routes and where the ball was going. So he was already on his way making the play before the ball ever left the quarterback. So he was able to beat them. That's what range is, right? That's where range comes from. Yes, speed helps you. Obviously, if you have a safety that runs a 4.3, it does help him in that regard. But that doesn't make him automatically rangy. Just because
you can just go to the wrong place faster.
Yeah, there's an intelligence and an instinct that comes with range that's much more valuable, and Richie Grant has that. So that's why I think that Richie Grant, if I was sitting there and Richie Grant was on the board and Al Hamilton was on the board, I'm taking Richie Grant. That's just me.
So that being said, I'd say second round would be a spot where you will look, or would you just not want to consider it right now because we got way too many needs?
Yeah, I don't think safety would be if you're going to go safety, yeah, second round is where I would start looking, because you got like Lewis Seen and stuff like that on there. Personally, I wouldn't target a safety in this. I don't think we need it. Obviously, if something crazy happens and Kyle Hamilton's sitting there in the second or something, sure, go ahead and take him. But obviously, that's not going to happen. So,
all right, Trey, welcome back in the conversation. Come on in, the water's fine. If you had to choose between, picking a safety kind of early on in this round or really not choosing one at all, what would you take?
To be honest, probably not. I think you have. If you're going to take a safety, take them in like the fourth round. I'm really not even that. Like kind of like, I'd probably say like the fifth round-ish, sixth round. Because really, when you look at it, okay, you have Richie Grant. He has potential. He had some flashes last year of what he was in college, and now was a rangy, very good tackler, and he also played in the slot too in preseason. Did at least well in that, because he wasn't really used to playing it in college. He mostly played at that single high safety, but he can play in the slot. You also have Jalen Hawkins, who kind of just popped out of nowhere last year and showed off to why he could really be I wouldn't say like a Pro Bowl, all pro caliber safety, but like a underrated, like that safety that people know about. And when you have that, and he's young too, on a rookie contract, and if you wanted to extend him, wouldn't cost much. Of course, you have Eric Harris, Butterfingers, but
you got Dean Marlowe.
I think the reason they brought Eric Harris back was, one, if Richie or Jalen don't work out, he's played both strong and free safety, and he knows the system now, so he can play either one. And then when you have he's also a leader too. You can tell by the way, how some guys, circle around, how the defensive back circle around him and AJ last year, that he was one of the leaders, not just in the secondary unit, but on the defense and maybe even on the team. So when you have that right there, I mean, you could add a safety, but then you just signed like two of them in the past, week and a half. So really, to be honest, I think it's straight to safety to not draft one this year.
All right, so I guess I would go priority free agent, just for the depth purposes, and then 2023. Let's see what our chances are right then.
Hey guys, I think it kicked me out there for a second.
No problem. I got you. All right. Let's talk about guards and tackles real quick.
Okay.
So Trey, if you were to choose a guard, what would be the first time? What would be the first time for you to look?
I'd probably say like second round. If you're kind of like, if you're looking at trying to, upgrade probably over Kellen McGarry and get someone that fits the system a little bit more, I think the second round is really where you find that, because when you look in the first round, where are most of the top tier offensive linemen, left tackles? Akeem Nkwonu, Evan Neal, Charles Cross, Trevor Penning, guys like that. Most of these guys are left guards and left tackles. Now, you could use a left guard, but then again, you really just be having another Jalen Mayfield most likely all over again. And I'm pretty sure nobody wants that right now. So
the only person I would consider to be a guard right here of those five would be Akeem Nkwonu.
Yeah, to be honest. And he's probably going number, 3 tops for me. I think that's where he's probably more slated for me to go.
Well, there is a guy that I would like in the later first if we were to trade back or something, if we could. Like Kenyon Green is a guy that I'm really high on, but not at 8.
Yeah, you were saying Kenyon Green, and I was thinking, hey, if we have some of the draft capital to try to trade back up in the later picks, I'm taking Zion Johnson.
Him too.
Zion Johnson? Yeah.
From Boston College. I mean, because he's got really good experience at left guard. He was also practicing taking some snaps at center just for the heck of it, to kind of have that on his resume. And, I like his pass protection skills. I like his run blocking skills. He's tied up there with Kenyon Green for me. So I'm not mad at either one.
Yeah.
They're going to be guys that we have to trade up in the first round, in the late first, and then try to get, because you got other teams either Buffalo, you got Dallas, you got Tampa Bay for sure. They're going to be targeting one, maybe Green Bay.
Yeah, with Green, what gives him the edge over Zion to me is that he's played 4 of the 5 positions on the offensive line that I know of for sure. He played them all well against top end talent. He was going up against Alabama at tackle, and one of those guys. So, that's where I would like Green, because you could play him. Say Mayfield worked out at left guard, right? Then Green could be a possible tackle replacement for McGarry, right? If Mayfield doesn't work out, then Kenyon Green goes, right? Or Kenyon Green could be a good swing tackle for you. He could do so much right away. Plus, he could develop into a full-time starter in the future. I like Johnson, but I would, even if he played center at Boston College, I guess he did, but he's a guard to me. That's his position, right? Whereas Kenyon Green, I would feel comfortable in a lot of different positions with him. That's what gets
me doing that. So, guard would be kind of having the first round grade, or?
If you're talking about where we could possibly look at, then yeah, first round. Yeah.
And then, if we can't grab those guys,
there are some mid-round guys that I think are pretty good. I think Bernard will be there in the second round if you wanted to go with him. And there's just a bunch of guys in the third, fourth round that you could possibly get.
I'd say third round?
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah.
I kind of put them in that pocket. And then anything after that?
Really, he was spot on with it. Kind of, that third roundish, maybe late second, but yeah, I already said second, so yeah, probably late third roundish if you wanted to. The thing is with me, I want to know if they're valuing guard and tackle like that. Because if they aren't, then there's no point in wasting a high pick like that. So,
Yeah, we're just talking about where they could possibly look. If they do that, because obviously we're not going to know what they're valuing. I will say this: Terry Fontenot does come from New Orleans. New Orleans is notorious for taking first-round offensive linemen.
Yeah, Ryan Ramczyk, you got Cesar Ruiz, you got Terran Armstead.
Yeah.
Can't remember if Ronald's Pete was one.
Yeah, so and we didn't take one last year. And we did. Later we took Dolman and Mayfield, but there's a very good chance that we either trade back, and that might be one of the picks, or we trade back into the first and maybe pick up a.
How about this? I'm gonna take this one. I'm going to say second, and then our third option would be third round.
And And moving to tackle, I would not be surprised if we took a tackle at number 8. One of the big three, or three guys fall to that position. Like if you got Akeem McQuanu sitting there, and you got Karlaftis, I don't know, Trayvon Walker, like I would not be upset if we took Akeem, that position.
Yeah.
Because then, you pretty much sure up that if you decide to cut McGarry, you got a right tackle, right? And then in the meantime, he can play left tackle or left guard if need be.
And if we don't snag one there,
tackle. If you don't snag a tackle, don't worry about it. In the first round, after the first round, don't worry about it.
So you're saying like, hey, don't look anywhere else in the draft. Just go like free
Yeah,
agency.
McGarry is better than every tackle that you would get in the mid rounds.
And we also can't forget that we got Jermaine Ifedi, which at his best, he was probably like, I'd say maybe better than McGarry in some stages.
Yeah.
Like he still has that potential to get a fighting spirit to fight for that.
Yeah, we don't really need depth there with, if you're drafting a tackle, you're drafting a tackle to be McGarry's successor. And, and also, he could also be possibly Jake Matthews' successor in the next few years, That's the good thing with Juanin, because I think he would give you value at right tackle, but he's a left tackle. So if on down the road, either we want to move Matthews to the right side because he's getting older, because that's another thing. Jake Matthews played right tackle in college. So, if you wanted to, move that around, if you got a guy like a kid, it gives you that first pick, right? But yeah, after the first round with tackles, there's not really anybody that I'm high on.
All right, fair enough. Let's go tight end. Kind of fill out our first options with these guys.
Earliest second round. But there's plenty of tight ends throughout the rest of the draft after the second round.
Oh yeah.
So if you wanted to get a guy, you could get him.
So that's kind of like in that Trey McBride range, and
yeah. I would not pick up McBride or something in the first round. He's not worth it.
Oh no.
And I would say with McBride, I would probably put him more late second. I don't know if I would take him with our first, second.
Yeah, for me, he's more of that like tight end one kind of role where it's like, hey, if you want to consistently move out in the slot and still have that inline option.
Yeah, he's a tremendous blocker. He's a tremendous blocking tight end.
Oh yeah.
And he would play what we wanted Hayden Hurst to do.
He'd be the mixture of a Hayden Hurst and Lee Smith.
He's like a Hooper, Austin Hooper, which Austin Hooper was a third round pick. So
right,
that tells you.
I'd say maybe second, and then if we don't prioritize them that well, then where's your next bet? Because for me, I've looked at a lot of the tight ends, and my sweet spots would be like the fourth as your next bet, and then maybe not there, like there's the sixth round pick, and even then you still got some good talent to go for there.
Yeah. Look, there's a lot of guys in this draft that you might take a chance on. Like there's a guy that played quarterback. I can't remember where he played quarterback at, but he came in to the East-West Shrine game as a tight end, and he's just an athlete, right?
Armani Rogers.
Yeah. So that's a guy that you take. You don't take him early. you want to take him probably at some point.
I'd rather take a guy like Jelani Woods from Virginia, which almost had the same story. Former quarterback converting to that tight end spot.
Yeah. But there are a lot of options like later in the draft if you want to go that route. Now I don't know, but Arthur Smith likes his tight end, so I would never rule out a tight end. And then you got like people like Rucker, 4th round. That'd be a very good value for a Rucker.
They're like a Jake Ferguson too.
Yeah. So
I'd say 4th and then probably 6th would be the next spot that I'm looking at.
Yeah, because Rucker, he at Ohio State, he was mostly a blocking tight end, but he's got some receiving upside. He just didn't.
We don't really need him to be that guy because Kyle Pitts is that guy. Like if he can just be like a 5-yard security blanket, that's it.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, let's see, Trey, where do you want to go next?
What's for tight end, right?
Well, we already kind of filled that one out, so I'm just kind of thinking like, hey, second option for there, first option for punter, second option for center.
Hey, who doesn't love punters?
Hey,
we could go 6th round for punters.
6th round, then we'll kind of go PFA.
Yeah.
We physically can't wait for next year.
Yeah. That doesn't help when you sign like 3 or 4 punters in the entire season and couldn't bring one back. Doesn't really, help. But hey, punters, they're easy to find. We just need you to kick the ball at least, 50 yards deep. That's.
Or at least don't do it less than 10, dude.
Yeah. If you can kick past 35 yards, just contact Terry Fontenot.
Really, really good punters are hard to find. Like hitting people deep, and that makes a big difference on your team if you got a guy that can consistently hit deep. So that guy that's coming out of what's the main punter guy that we're talking about?
Matt Ariza from San Diego State.
Yeah, him. You're probably gonna have to take him probably in the 5th at the latest.
Yeah, it's really difficult to kind of figure out like when a punter and kicker would go.
Yeah, well, it's really just like these teams that always shock people. Like Tampa taking one in the 2nd round. Janikowski was taken in the 1st round. Yeah, I would definitely take a TV if we ever took a kicker or punter in the 1st round. But well, and then Ray Guy, he was taken in the 1st round by the Raiders. Oh.
Yeah, in typical Raiders fashion.
Yeah. So yeah, that guy probably, the Ariza guy, he could go probably 3rd round even.
Jeez. I would hate to see that.
I wouldn't want the Falcons to do that. I'm just saying that it could be a very good possibility that somebody does that.
I would hate to see like another team take him in the 3rd and be like, dang, like that's how high he was valued there.
He was a kicker. He was the kicker too, wasn't he, for San Diego State?
I wouldn't put it past him for being one. Not that we would need it. But...
So yeah, we don't need a kicker, obviously. Younger holding it down.
All right, so Trey, where else do you want to go next and fill out the squad? Because kind of running out of time.
I already kind of went over our receiver. Let's go 4th round for linebacker.
All right.
Kind of. Like when you think about it, like how usually when you talk about linebackers, like in the past 3 or 4 drafts, you probably said like 2 or 3 go in the 1st round. This year, you might can say only 1 goes in the top 20. And like Rip said earlier, you haven't really heard much of Nakobe Dean. I don't know if it's a his size. When people think, his because Georgia's D line wasn't like a bunch of small guys. Like most of those guys are like max 320. I mean, like floor like 320 in the middle. So there's some big guys, and when they take up blocks, it's easy for Nakobe Dean to get there. But you still got Leo Chanel, you still got Christian Harris, Nakobe Dean. Who's the Cincinnati linebacker? I keep forgetting. I don't know why. I keep forgetting.
Darian Beavers.
Yeah, Darian Beavers. You still have him. So some of those guys that may slip to the fourth round, just because of how the linebackers this year look.
And if you want that kind of thumper role in the kind of in that range, you maybe go for Jack Sanborn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna be a little maybe controversial. Kobe Dean's the only first round linebacker I would take. I don't think Devin Lloyd's a first round linebacker.
I mean, I can see that because he's not a good cover linebacker. But in my opinion, I think Devin Lloyd's like a top 20 player in this draft just because of his attitude. He plays with like a get to it, win type attitude. It's how he thinks. And he's like, as a linebacker, you have to be smart. And he's kind of like on that, the next, like that smart guy, like that knows plays, like the Darius Leonard type guy. And I watched a couple of his plays last year, like when some of his games were on. You can kind of hear him like calling out the play. Dudes are like, how does he know what play we're about to run or one of these plays we're about to run? And it's you can tell he watches film, but he's a playmaker. Like he's a thinker, he's smart, he's a playmaker. And he's not, like I said, when you're a linebacker, you can't be afraid to go up against these 300-pound linemen. When he blitzes, it's like he just wants to run through them, and he does exactly that. And I think that's what aparts him from Nakobe Dean is that even though he might not be as fast as Nakobe, he blitzes, I think, a little bit better than he does.
See, this is what you just said. Everything you just said about Devin Lloyd is exactly what I would say about Nakobe Dean. Devin Lloyd, to me, he has the physical tools, but he takes poor angles a lot. He gets out of position in the run game because he takes the wrong step. Nakobe Dean, for his size, still was very consistent in stopping the run just as much as he was in the past because he could put himself in good position. And Nakobe Dean ain't afraid of nobody. You watch his tape; he does not care to go up against 300-pound linemen. He does not care. He's gonna get there. So, what you're saying about Devin Lloyd, I would actually say about Nakobe Dean more than Devin Lloyd. That's just what I saw on tape.
All right. So speaking of which, if we can't find one in the fourth, where do we value linebacker after that?
Linebacker is probably free agency after that. I don't. There's a big drop off after the main guys.
Yeah, they're all decent role players.
I'm not even. A lot of people talk about Chad Moma. I'm not even really that big on him. Like, I don't see much from him. That doesn't make.
I've seen some really good things from Troy Anderson, actually, from Montana State.
I have not watched him, so I don't have an opinion.
All right. So we got edge to kind of finish out. We got interior defensive line to finish out. Wide receiver to finish out. Center to finish out. I think, like, for me, for the center position, I mean, we're taking back-to-back centers in this draft, and, like, the mid-round especially. At some point, one of them's got to work, right? So if you don't get one here, I think you just kind of wait it out and just say, all right, well, either Matt Hennessy or Drew Dahlman, you guys got to win this job. or else we're going to have to make everyone else so much better than you around you, which is still possible, by the way.
Yeah.
So that kind of limit the damage that they would do.
Yeah, and hey, next year we've got house money when it comes to cap space. So if there's a center that's available next year, you can go to the agency and get one.
Yeah, I'd say just grab one for death in the free agency, and then 2023 would be your next answer for 2023. 2030. All right, so now we got our the big three. Trey, let's go with interior defensive line first, all right? Because we've mentioned about that Jordan Davis maybe Travis Jones range if they fall right there. If you can't get him or them, like where would be the next time you would want to try to get an interior defensive line? Maybe not necessarily the same type of player, but someone that can be that role player for you. I guess I'm kind of making sense.
For me, I'd probably have to say like third round. Like I really think interior defensive lineman is one of those very important spots that we need on this team right now. And you're like, well, why would you say that? We have Grady Jarrett. Who else is there? I mean, you have Tyquan Graham, but you don't expect him to be anywhere near Grady Jarrett level. Marlon Davidson doesn't seem like he's going to work out after 2 poor seasons. You got Anthony Rush, but really you're just using him for goal line in 3rd and 1 situations. Like you need someone next to Grady to at least take some pressure off of him, if not get pressure on the quarterback to take advantage of those double teams that Grady gets. And either you get a prototypical 3-4 defensive or nose tackle, like a big guy that commands a double team, or you get a Devontae Wyatt type guy. Now, I'm not saying Devontae Wyatt's going to be available in a second, but you get a guy like him, like DeMarvin Lill or somebody like that, and let it roll from there. And if you do that, it kind of just sets up the entire D line from there.
Yeah, obviously you could always use depth at the 3-tech, but I really don't think 3-tech is a big need for us because we got Jarrett. But then if Davidson, like I think Davidson played pretty decently in his sparing role last year. That was me. But
especially against Brady.
Yeah. What? Say that again.
Especially against Tampa Bay.
Yeah. I mean, he made some plays, and I think our biggest thing is nose tackle. And when it comes to nose tackle, you're gonna have to take one of the 2 big guys. That's for me to feel comfortable. Like there's not that many like nose tackles in the later rounds that I really like. A lot of them are a lot of the interior D linemen are 3-tech. It's pretty deep at 3-tech. I mean, you even got like people in the 5th round, like later rounds, day 3, that like Matthew Butler, that he could play a role for you at that 3-tech spot.
Oh heck, I mean, I would even go as far as to try to go for a Thomas Booker from Stanford in the 6th.
Yeah.
I like what I see from him. I know he's got versatility all across the defensive line, and he's one of the smartest players I've seen in this draft class from an interview.
Yeah, so but like if you're going to take a nose tackle, you want to get one of those top 2 guys.
Now, nose tackles, there are still some. Now, they're obviously not going to have the same ceiling as those guys, but at least they will do the job that you want, that you drafted them for, right? So right. I'm thinking of a guy like his name McNeil from LSU. You got Noah Ellis from Idaho. You got the guy that I've been praising for a while, Marquand McCall from Kentucky.
Yeah, there's guys, but I think the value was not going to be there as much as say like a receiver position. Because the way I look at the draft is like every draft has pockets, right?
Right, and that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, like, and where you don't want to like. A lot of people use the late round picks to like fill out need, and I mean I get that approach. I understand it, but my approach is always get the best player, and we'll figure it out. That's on the board. Yeah. Now need is a type, but I think that the value in the mid rounds for like receiver and stuff is a lot stronger than interior defense. Now that's not a 1-to-1 comparison because obviously you don't know what's going to be available at that particular spot, as far as that goes.
Yeah, I mean my thinking is I'd rather still have one than not.
Yeah.
Even if they can't provide it, I want a guy in the room in that position.
I get that. But really, like, how big of a drop off do you get from like a 5th round nose tackle to a undrafted one?
Or, I mean, you can also kind of look at the comparison and be like, okay, well, what's the drop off between like a 5th round wide receiver and an undrafted one, and then kind of say, well, all right, if these are my two options that I'm choosing from, I'll take my pool of wide receivers to draw from the wide receivers, from the free agency pool than I would for an interior defensive lineman. And if I'm going back, then I'll take the guy.
That's true. That's very true. That's why there's multiple ways to look at a draft.
Yeah, because like, these guys, there's not going to be a lot of them here. There's like thousands of these guys like every single year.
Yeah. So
for me, I'd actually kind of value one again and take a look at one in the 5th round.
Yeah, and then as far as edge goes, I don't know how I feel after day 2. So 2nd, 3rd, I don't know how I feel with the later guys. Like once you get past like Epiketti and all that.
Yeah, Kingsley maybe.
Yeah, Kingsley,
maybe like Williams.
Maja Sanders,
Sanders,
yeah, like, but like the thing with Maja is like I don't really know where he's gonna fit in the NFL because he's like very good against the run, but he's 220 pounds, 230 pounds, something like that. So like,
yeah, people keep drafting Nick Benito from the same reason. It's like, dude, that guy's also like. He's like 6'3", 235.
I watched his film. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I watched his film and I didn't see anything from him that, like, that really impressed me. I always found myself watching Perry and Winfrey more than when I was watching him than I was watching Nick Benito. So.
Yeah. So you're kind of saying like, all right, if we don't get one in the 1st, and get one in the 2nd. If we don't get one in the 2nd, get one in the 3rd.
Yeah, 2nd, 3rd. After that, I wouldn't even bother. Unless there's always that chance that somebody falls that you weren't expecting.
Yeah. And our last position, Trey, finish us off with what are wide receiver windows again?
What did I say? I said 1st and 3rd round. 1st
okay.
and
3rd.
Yeah, kind of like that. I wouldn't really say 74 because I think with how the wide receiver depth is this year, you can find a good number 2 wide receiver at 84. Just gonna mention some names, kind of like Justin Ross, Calvin Austin, Jalen Tolbert, Khalil Shakir, I was just watching this dude film a couple of days ago. Alec
Maybe
Pierce.
maybe John Mechie.
Yeah, John Mechie. If that ACL isn't going how Jamison Williams is, David Bell. I've heard he's falling to like that third round, so maybe David Bell. So yeah, it's some good number 2 options right there, and I expect most of these guys to actually be right there. Just how the draft falls.
Yeah, I'm very big on like Justin Ross, just because like I came back from that injury last year and wasn't like 100%. It didn't look like. Plus, I think they took a big hit in the quarterback play last year. I don't think DJ Uwangale or whatever you say his name really performed well. But I think Justin Ross has some upside to him. Because if he could get back to what he was his freshman year, he has some. You're talking about a guy that they were talking about first round. He reminds me a lot of like an AJ Green.
It's my praise.
Yeah. I'm not saying he's going to be AJ Green. I hate player comparisons because people are like, oh, well, but I mean, but he's got the build of an AJ Green. And he did have the production his first year of like an AJ Green. So his ceiling is AJ Green.
I mean, if your ceiling is the only wide receiver that was taken before Julio.
Yeah. So I think you could probably get him in the second and third round, if not later. I don't know.
And if you don't get him, what's our next spot after third?
Me personally, I think there's receivers in every round that you could feel comfortable with at certain spots.
True.
That's
so would you go to the next round then? Trey, what do you think?
I think we could do that. Yeah, we could do that.
You just kind of go fourth round there?
Yeah, because like to be honest, we're kind of in contention for the worst wide receiving core in the league. So really, any round is where a wide receiver is thought about.
Yeah, fourth round is where I would consider someone like a Bill Melton from Syracuse.
I wouldn't mind that move. I mean, if you can groom him, he can be a nice 2, maybe 3 if you do a very good job. But with some of these fourth round picks, it's a very big if.
We're gonna be wide receiver by committee, so just get as many 2, 3 guys that you can get in the room. And just right now, our number 1 receiver is Olamide Zaccheaus. So you don't got much way. You can't really go wrong much beyond that. So.
All right. Now, rapid fire real quick, all right? Don't give it a second thought. I'm just going to put 2 positions up here, cross one off, all right? Here we go. Edge or interior defensive line?
Edge.
All right. Crossing that one off. Edge, corner.
Edge.
Edge.
All right. Corner. Edge, wide receiver.
Wide receiver.
I say edge.
All right. Skip that one. Edge, tackle.
Edge.
Edge, yeah.
All right. Edge, guard.
Edge.
Edge.
All right. Second round. Edge or guard?
Edge.
Edge.
Edge or linebacker?
Edge.
Edge, yeah.
Edge or tight end?
Edge.
Yeah, definitely edge.
All right. Let's see. Quarterback or edge?
Edge.
Yeah.
Edge or interior defensive line?
Edge.
Yeah.
Edge or guard?
Edge.
Edge or wide receiver?
Wide receiver in the mid-round.
Yeah, wide receiver.
All right, running back or linebacker?
Running back.
Yeah. You talking about the 4th round?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Quarterback, yeah. Because you got a lot of depth in the 4th round. Probably that's where.
Running back or tight end?
Running back.
Running back, yeah.
Running back or wide receiver?
Wide receiver.
Wide receiver, yeah.
Wide receiver or linebacker?
Wide receiver.
Yeah, same.
Wide receiver or center?
Wide receiver.
Yeah.
All right, quarterback or tight end?
Tight end.
Tight end. Because I think I think once you get to that area.
Tight end or punter?
Punter. Because we don't have one. We don't have one.
All right. Now, obviously, we still got some more picks in the 2nd and 3rd and 6th, but as of right now, those are our good windows to take either or. And then one last time for first round, edge or wide receiver.
I still say edge, but I mean, because I think that the top you're talking about like wide receivers, they're pretty consistent. There's not a big drop off between the top guys and the later round guys as much as there is when you get out of edge in the 1st round, later round. Not to say there's not talent later on, but the top end is a lot heavier, it's a lot more top heavy than the one. Hit mama.
All right, Trey, do you agree?
Yeah.
All right, so those are our final answers for everything else. And then we'll kind of go back and think about what we prioritized again in the 2nd, 3rd, and 6th, which I think we're going to say like in the punter would be a good spot for a 6-rounder.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, we got multiple picks in the 2nd and the 3rd, unless we trade up. So, you could go into your
and I still got this in writing on the screen recording too, so we can kind of look back at this and remember.
Yeah.
All right, and that is kind of our answer. That's kind of our reasoning as to how we go about our strategy. So, any last final thoughts? Then got to close out the show. But
I don't have any final thoughts. Just other than the whole Kyle Hamilton thing. Like, guys, just stop it.
No problem.
So, I think final thoughts for me. One, can't wait to get to the draft. About what is it, like 2 weeks and a day away now?
Closer than we think.
Yep.
Yeah, so like about 2 weeks and a day. So close, very close. Still got a lot of things that the team can do in those 2 weeks. We just seen what the Saints did last week with the one first round 2022 and 2023 first round picks swaps basically for with Philadelphia. So like I said, still a lot of time to change something up if Terry Fontenot and Arthur want to. In very field class, nice with every position that we need. It's about there's a good bit of players that we can select there. So, just gotta wait. Can't wait, but gotta wait. And can't wait to get there. 2 more shows till the draft.
Yeah. Well, it'll be good once we get past the draft. We'll know who we got and be able to focus on those players instead of the numerous players that are not going to be part of our team that we're focusing on.
All right. So, yeah, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Stick around the song. And, yeah, I'm gonna keep this information so we can hopefully go back to it and see. I would like to see like our comparisons to what the Falcons what they've actually done, and go with that comparison. Maybe we can save that for another show. But,
I mean, we could. Would be a good little laugh, to see like how wrong and how right we were on some things.
Hey, if we're right on any of this stuff, that's kudos to us for just being fans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the draft is so unpredictable. It's just, if you're right on any of it, you're hitting more than most. So.
All right. So, yeah, thank you guys. We'll close up the show now. So, see you next week.
See ya.